sir. We're right on schedule.
This weapon is the signature of the ARC. Of all the firearms fielded by the Grand Army of the Republic, few are this mysterious and interesting at the same time. The WESTAR-M5 blaster rifle. Why is so little known about it? And is it truly connected to the famous Mandalorian WESTAR-35? The weapon made its first appearance in a 2003 comic called Star Wars Republic and later the Clone Wars show, so it goes way back. Its name, however, creates confusion. The WESTAR-M5 share its naming convention with the Mandalorian WESTAR-35, but the two have nothing to do with one another. Despite carrying the same branding, the M5 predates the 35 by years, and the two share almost no design lineage. The WESTAR-35 was simply the successor to the 34, produced by Concordian Crescent Technologies, and it spread rapidly throughout Mandalorian culture. The WESTAR-M5, on the other hand, was built exclusively for the Grand Army of the Republic, and yet everything about it feels out of place, almost like a weapon that shouldn't exist at all. The WESTAR-M5 wasn't just uncommon, it was undocumented. No production record, no prototype files, and no manufacturer listed in any Republic contracts. For most other weapons in the Grand Army, we know who built them. Blastech, Merson, CNR, Sorosub, and even Kaminoan subcontractors. But the WESTAR-M5? It appears in the Clone Wars fully realized, issued to ARC troopers with no paper trail behind it. In a military almost entirely designed by outsourced corporations, the M5 feels like an anomaly. And the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. But more on that later. Thankfully, unlike its mysterious origins, we do know more about its specifications. First and foremost, the WESTAR-M5 is classified as a blaster rifle, much like the DC-15A. It follows the same broad operating principles found across most Republic-era weapons. It fires blue blaster bolts using Tibanna gas in an energy cell. When the trigger is pulled, a small dose of Tibanna is released into the ignition chamber, where the rifle's power pack superheats it into plasma. That plasma is then compressed into a focused particle beam and fired out of the barrel. But this is where the M5 begins to stand apart from its peers. The firing mechanism allows for 3 fire modes: semi-automatic, burst, and fully automatic. It also delivers a heavier damage output than the DC-15A, giving it better armor penetration and even the ability to threaten armored vehicles. All of this sustained by a drum-style power pack. Unlike the slim magazines of other rifles, this design feeds the weapon with a larger number of shots, making it excellent for sustained fire. Its optic mounts on a rail system, which allows the customization to go even beyond the normal DC-15, based on operator preference. And for those seeking extra firepower, the WESTAR can also mount an underbarrel grenade launcher similar to the DC-17M. It can be attached or removed as needed, and fires single grenades in a simple unguided dumbfire mode, ideal for breaking up groups of enemy troops or dealing with tougher armored targets. And its customization doesn't end there. The rifle features a collapsible stock that can be adjusted to the user's posture, giving clone troopers improved comfort and control during long engagements. All of this on a frame that's about half the size of the DC-15A. But what about the user? Only a part of ARC troopers ever carried the M5. Units like the Munilist 10, led by Captain Fordo, were frequently depicted using the rifle during urban and close-quarter operations. Another known user was Alpha-17, one of the original Alpha-class ARCs. He was occasionally shown carrying the M5 or variants of it. Beyond that, some Galactic Marines were known to wield it in battle, in lower numbers, truthfully. And after the Clone Wars have ended, the weapon simply disappeared. There's been no recorded instances of any Imperials or Rebels using it. It didn't seem to be mass-produced. It was a choice, and it was very rarely seen on the battlefield. So how did this weapon came to be? There's a few possibilities we can look into. The first one is that the WESTAR-M5 was a Kaminoan in-house project. A rifle engineered specifically for ARC troopers and deliberately kept separate from Republic contractors for reasons unknown. If ARCs were designed to surpass standard clones, it would make sense for their weapons to follow suit. Built on Kamino, tested on Kamino, and buried under Kaminoan secrecy. The cloners were perfectionists. Creating a bespoke rifle for their most elite soldiers wouldn't be unusual. But this idea carries a contradiction. The DC-17M, The signature weapon of the Republic Commandos was developed and manufactured by Blastech. If Camino wanted total control, why outsource that one? And if Blastech was trusted enough to arm the Commandos, why not assign them the M5 as well? Unless it was an experiment, a Caminoan attempt at designing their own rifle, a self-contained project that was quietly abandoned. The second possibility places the WESTAR-M5 inside the Republic's frantic military procurement pipeline. During the Clone Wars, weapon manufacturers flooded the Senate with prototype rifles, carbines, and heavy blasters, each fighting for the massive contract to arm the Grand Army. Under this theory, the WESTAR-M5 was simply one of these competing designs, a rifle pitched as an improvement over the DC-15 series. More modular, higher rate of fire, greater flexibility, and better ergonomics. On paper, the M5 outperformed the 15A in several areas. But increased performance always comes with an increased cost. If the M5 was more expensive to produce, harder to maintain, or slower to manufacture, the Senate would have chosen the cheaper, proven DC-15 line instead. This would explain the limited distribution. A handful of prototypes were already built, too valuable to scrap, so they were issued to the only soldiers trusted to handle advanced gear. But this raises another concern. If the M5 was simply a rejected prototype, why is its manufacturer never mentioned? Even failed competitors usually leave a paper trail. There is a third possibility, more reasonable, and one that sits deeper in the Republic's wartime bureaucracy. Not every military project went through the Senate. Some were funneled through black budget operations overseen by Republic intelligence. The same institutions that funded covert programs, surveillance platforms, and deniable units. Under this theory, the WESTAR-M5 wasn't part of the normal procurement pipeline at all. It was a weapon developed under a classified Black Ops contract, bypassing the Senate's oversights entirely. A weapon that didn't need a public manufacturer because the funding itself was hidden. This would explain almost everything. The lack of serial records, the absence of a known developer and manufacturer, and the limited distribution. It would explain why only elite or covert units wielded it, because war does not wait for bureaucracy. Outside the Star Wars universe, the WESTAR-M5 design pulls heavily from real-world firearms. Its overall profile resembles a modern assault rifle, complete with a familiar 3-position fire selector. The underbarrel grenade launcher is clearly inspired by GLs such as the M203 developed by Colt. And even the drum-style magazine has real-world parallels in weapons like the RPK light machine gun. It is actually one of the more grounded Star Wars designs. Now, of course, in reality, the minimal history is likely due to the lack of deeper investment by the authors, given how it's a really old weapon. But it's nice to theorize. This was the WESTAR-M5, the weapon with no origin.